Deep in the forgotten corners of Eastern Europe, nestled between dark forests and crumbling hills, lies a village whose name has been all but erased from maps. The few who still remember it call it Duskwither Hollow. To the world, it is simply known as the Cursed Village, a place shrouded in mystery, fear, and tragedy. Once a thriving settlement of farmers and craftsmen, the village began to decline in the early 1970s after a series of strange and terrifying events took root. What began as whispers of unease soon turned into a horror that drove away every living soul except for those who vanished trying to uncover its secrets. According to local legend, everything changed when a group of archaeologists began digging beneath the old village chapel. Beneath its stone floor, they uncovered a sealed coffin made of blackened stone, covered in unfamiliar runes. Despite warnings from the villagers, the team opened it only to find it empty. That same night, a chilling fog rolled into the valley. Villagers claimed to hear voices in an unknown language echoing from the woods. Their livestock disappeared, crops wilted overnight, and shadowy figures were seen wandering near the tree line, always watching, but never approaching. One by one, people started to vanish. First a child who went to fetch water from the well, then an entire family, then the village priest. The local police launched an investigation, but no bodies were found. The strangest detail of all, not a single trace of blood, struggle, or escape. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed them. Frightened and helpless, the remaining villagers fled, abandoning their homes and leaving everything behind. The government eventually declared the area uninhabitable and closed the only road leading in, labeling it a danger zone. Despite the official warnings, urban explorers and thrill seekers continued to enter Duskwither Hollow over the years. None returned. The most chilling case was that of a documentary film crew in 1999 who entered with high-end equipment and live satellite transmission. They recorded for nearly 4 hours before the signal was suddenly cut. The final footage recovered from their satellite feed showed flickering images, a rising sound of whispers, and a figure standing far down the main street of the village. The figure never moved, but its face was completely blurred, though the camera refused to capture it. Seconds later, screams erupted, and the video went black. Since then, no one has dared to go back. The village now sleeps under a blanket of silence, guarded by its own dark presence. Locals avoid even speaking of it, fearing that the curse may reach them if they utter its name. Duskwither Hollow remains an unsolved mystery, its secrets buried deep beneath moss, fog, and fear. But something waits there still, as if watching and calling. The disappearance of the 1999 documentary crew shook the nearby towns. Authorities initially dismissed it as an accident. Perhaps they got lost in the dense forest, or were attacked by wild animals. But those who reviewed the last moments of the recovered footage knew something was terribly wrong. The figure captured in the final frame standing still at the edge of the street was unlike anything they'd ever seen. It wasn't just blurred by the camera, it was as if reality itself rejected its existence. Technicians tried enhancing the image, but every attempt led to system errors, screen flickers, or unexplained glitches. The equipment failed repeatedly, almost as if something didn't want the truth to be revealed. In the weeks that followed, strange reports began to surface. The lead editor working on the footage was found in his home, unresponsive and murmuring incoherently about a voice in the static. Another technician disappeared on his way to the studio, and his car was later found abandoned with the doors wide open and the engine still running. Fearing a deeper curse, the station shelved the project, sealed the tapes, and labeled them classified, do not view. But rumors spread, and some said that anyone who even watched the raw footage suffered from nightmares, nosebleeds, and hallucinations. Some even claimed the blurred figure started showing up in their dreams, whispering their names. By 2001, the legend of Duskwither Hollow had grown far beyond local folklore. Paranormal investigators, underground occultists, and rogue scientists became obsessed with the place. One anonymous source leaked that the village sat atop a centuries-old burial site, possibly connected to ancient pagan rituals meant to trap a demon or dark entity within the earth. The stone coffin, they said, wasn't meant to contain a body but a spirit, and when the archaeologists opened it, they unknowingly broke the seal. The entity, no longer confined, began feeding on the village-owned soul at a time. Despite the danger, 2 more groups tried to enter the village in the early 2000s. One was a team of thrill-seeking YouTubers in 2004. They went live during their journey into the village, laughing and mocking the curse until their live stream glitched violently. The screen turned red for a few seconds, then went black. Their bodies were never recovered. The second group, a private research team with satellite tracking, vanished entirely. Their last GPS ping placed them right at the center of Duskwither Hollow, then their signal vanished, as though the entire area had been erased from the map. Now, 25 years later, no one has entered Duskwither Hollow. Locals refuse to guide outsiders there, and the road has been overgrown by thick trees and thorny vines. Even birds avoid flying over it. The village remains untouched, frozen in time, yet humming with something unseen. And those who live nearby claim that on certain nights, if the wind is just right, You can still hear faint whispers calling from the forest, inviting, begging, and waiting. 25 years had passed since anyone dared set foot in Duskwither Hollow. Most believed the story had faded into myth, just another tale to scare children or thrill ghost hunters. But one man had not forgotten: Elias Granger, the son of one of the lost archaeologists from the 1970 excavation. Obsessed with the mystery and haunted by dreams of his father standing in the fog, Elias had spent years studying the village's history. He pored over ancient manuscripts, interviewed surviving villagers, and even found fragments of the original black stone coffin, which had somehow resurfaced in an antique market in Romania. Something inside him whispered that he had to go back not for fame, but for answers. Elias prepared differently. Unlike the others, he wasn't looking to challenge the curse or record content. He studied ancient protection rituals, wore talismans blessed by old mystics, and carried with him a book of forgotten chants written in the same runes found on the coffin. As he approached the overgrown road leading to the village, the air grew thick, unnaturally quiet. Not a single bird chirped. The wind seemed to pull backward. But Elias pressed on, guided by the same whispers that had once lured so many to their doom. When he crossed into Duskwither Hollow, the fog lifted briefly, as if the village recognized him. The village was exactly as the 1999 footage had shown, frozen, decaying, untouched by time. The chapel stood at the center, its wooden doors still cracked open. Inside, Elias discovered symbols carved into the floor. Symbols meant not to protect, but to contain. He realized the villagers hadn't lived above a curse. They had built their lives atop a prison. The entity had never haunted the myth, had simply waited, whispering into dreams, testing the cracks in its cage. And when the coffin had been opened, it had slipped free, taking pieces of every soul who entered, drawing them into itself. Then came the voice. Not from the woods, not from the air, from inside Elias's mind. It was calm, persuasive, and filled with endless sorrow. It showed him glimpses of the lost, the children, the priest, the explorer Saul wandering in a place between worlds. They were not dead, but trapped in a loop of shadow, feeding the being's existence. It offered Elias a deal. Leave now, and it would release his father's spirit. Stay, and he could try to finish what the villagers had begun, sealing the curse again. Elias, against all reason, chose the second path. He began chanting, following the runes, bleeding into the stone as part of the ritual. The entity screamed not in pain, but in fury. No one knows exactly what happened after that night, but weeks later, a hiker found Elias's backpack at the edge of the forest, along with a camera and a journal. The footage inside showed the village shaking, the chapel glowing, and Elias standing still in the center of the ritual circle. Then, the screen turned to white. His journal ended with one line: "The hollow sleeps again, but not forever." Since that day, the whispers have stopped. Birds have returned. The forest feels lighter. But deep beneath the soil of Duskwither Hollow, something still breathes, resting, watching, waiting for the next crack in the stone.